Our first step in getting ready to sew is to trim our pattern. Right now it's got too much paper around it. The pieces are together. Actually, I've already cut one of mine off. But there's still way too much paper around the edges of the pattern for us to put this on our fabric. So I'm going to take paper scissors. Remember, don't use your good fabric scissors or shears on paper. I'm going to take my paper scissors and I am going to trim about 1/4 of an inch away from the edge, 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch, making sure that I do not cut off my notches. Those are really important for matching, and so we don't want to lose any of them. You're going to cut all the way around the big body piece, and then as I have already done, I've already trimmed my pocket piece. And if you notice, I have, this actually is a little less than 1/4 of an inch, but it's trimmed and ready to go. So that's your first step. Let's take care of that. After trimming our pattern, the next thing that we're going to do is make sure that our fabric is pressed. We only need to get the great big creases out so that it's a little bit easier to fold. But we need to then fold our fabric to get ready to put the pattern on. According to the directions, we need a double fold for part of the fabric and a single fold for only, or single layer for only 9 inches. So what I'm going to do is take my tape measure and measure up about 9 inches and put a pin. And then I'm going to do that on the other side as well, so that I am measuring about 9 inches on this side. Since I know the selvage edge is straight, I am going to measure from that side first. So, taking the cut end of my selvage, I'm going to bring it down to the pin that was 9 inches and put in some pins perpendicular. These need to be about a hand width apart. You can even use your hand as your measurement. I'm going to take my hand and smooth this over this direction, and we should have created a right angle at this point. I don't want this to shift around, so I'm going to put some pins across here. Again, I am putting them about a hand width apart. Remember, the more pins you put in, the more pins you take out, and this is just a temporary holding pinning. At this point, your fabric should be ready to put your pocket on. Our next step is to pin on the pattern. Whenever you place a pattern on a woven fabric, you always have to make sure that the grain line arrow, which is this double pointed arrow, is parallel to either a fold or the selvage edge. So we're going to take our pattern piece, and we're going to start with the big one. And we are going to place it, let's not put it smack dab in the middle. Let's go over kind of to the side. Then we have some extra fabric that if you want to make a water bottle pocket, or if you want to make an extra pocket, you have some fabric for that. So I'm going to start by placing a pin at one end of the grain line arrow, just like so. This then becomes a pivot point that we can use to make sure that the pattern is on straight. I'm going to measure and I honestly don't even look at the number. What I tend to do is put my thumb right at the end of where the tape measure meets the edge of the selvage, and then I just scoot this on down here, put my hand in the same place. Using that pivot, I make sure that the point of the arrow is in the right place here. And that's all I have to measure on here. I do want to check to make sure that my notches are on the fabric, which they are. I'm getting rid of this pin from underneath here because I certainly don't want to hit that with the scissors later on. And the way that I pin is by using the compass points, just like on a map. So we already have east kind of pinned. We're going to come over here to west and pin here, making sure that the whole pin is inside the cutting line. We want our pins parallel to the cutting line, but inside the cutting line. Now I'm at south, and then I'm going to come up here at north. After I do the compass points, then I do corners. And again, I'm not going to, I want to make sure that I don't have any pins underneath here. So I'm going to do my 4 corners first. Actually, I have 6 corners on here. And if you notice, this is a little bit hard to pin. Let me show you my pinning technique. I use the table to help me. I put my non-dominant hand a little bit ahead of the pin. I push down against the table so I know I'm going through all the layers. And then this one kind of makes a little bump for me, keeping my finger out of the way. That helps me get the pin all the way through. The pin I should be able to see both the head and the point of the pin. I'm doing the upper left corner and the upper right corner. I actually don't need these pins along the selvage anymore, so I'm just going to take those and put a pin by the notch on this side, one a little bit farther down. Your pin should be about every 2 to 3 fingers apart from one another. Another one up here, and another one here. And then I'm going to put 2 more on this side over here before I'm finished. That should just about make it. You know what? One place that I should probably have a pin, because coming around this corner is kind of difficult, is on these inside corners. So make sure that you have a pin at each outside corner and then on this inside corner. After pinning the body on, then we're going to pin the pocket on. And the pocket goes on this single layer. Again, I am going to put it over towards the selvage because then I have extra fabric that I could use for something else if I want to. Just like before, I'm going to put the pin at one end of the grain line. Pesky little tape measure got away from me. I'm going to measure from there over to the edge, put my thumbnail at the end, slide it right down here, make sure that that is parallel, and put the other pin in. Then, just like before, I'm going to do compass points. So we're going to do north. We're going to do south. East is already kind of taken care of, but let's put one at west before we go any farther. And then I really like to have one on every corner. So I'm going to put one at this corner this corner. It just makes going around the corners with the scissors a whole lot easier. All right, at this point you have your pattern all pinned on. You need to have your teacher check to see that you have placed it all correctly. And then our next step is cutting out the pattern.